Hello, everybody. I believe I am live. What a show, man. What a whirlwind experience. Hit our record number of viewers, 1,800, I think we hit. Phew. The growth the last 2 weeks has just been nuts. Just to pull this up again, this is what he went with. I had no idea what he was going to do exactly or what he was going to say exactly, but this is what he went with. Dudley Murdoch said, "Why did you change the unrest key to leans true? Your dad agreed and told me it was highly unlikely the protest would lead to BLM riots and other methods." I think all that can be true. I think it can lean true and also be highly unlikely that it's gonna be certainly false, right? I wouldn't read too much into like the leans likelies. It's just essentially it's trending in that direction. That's the way I would read it. I love how you called this the after show, Jamie Smith says. Thanks. G Gaw says, waiting. Thank you and your dad. Thank you for watching. Hey, Kevin. Smiley face. Patrick Murray. My mom thinks this thumbnail doesn't look like me. My thumbnail. Kevin says, it's the AU Sam. What does AU Sam mean? Eli Stevens says, Jared Goff. What does that mean? Oh, alternative view. That was a picture of me. I don't know. I took a picture of me. Steve Bob, JD, hello. Your name's kind of funny. Queen Sarabi says, at Karen Strickler, I really appreciate everything your husband does. I'm very nervous about Key 8, which is social unrest. NBC said students are planning summer protests. Even if they are, it still has to be widespread, nationwide, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people, right? And that's what Kevin said. That's exactly what Kevin followed up with. Would a big protest at the DNC be enough to flip it? Depends how big, It's a hypothetical, it's hard to answer. Patrick Murray says, I'm nervous that they could pick up too if the war prevails and when school resumes. I mean, yeah, it's possible. That's why it's still up in the air, right? Plasty Papa says, does anyone know what you're supposed to use to clean the bottom of an Apple Watch or any smartwatch? Really gets yucky when I work out and sweat all over it. That is a random question. I only got 38 people out of 1,300 to come to this after show. That's crazy to me. But yeah, give a thumbs up if you want to. Thank you, G Goff, for putting that out there. Queen Sarabi says, when the professor said that Key 8 only leans true, it made my anxiety go up. There's still a lot that could potentially happen with that key, right? Steve Bob says, personally, I don't think the protests will matter for the election. They're not big enough. I don't think that will change much. Yeah, you never know. I mean, you never know. But I think that's why it's leaning true. Bradley Mustang says, Jared Goff. What is going on with Jared Goff? I'm confused. Queen Sarabi says, I'm very worried for my daughter who is autistic. A second Trump term would leave her without resources she needs to survive. Well, yeah, let's hope that something like this prevails, right? Ian says, great State of the Keys edition. Thank you. Kevin says, Queen Sarabi, remember, vote. Good point. Jeff Cruson says, the pro-Palestine protests will have to raid Harper's Ferry again to flip the key. Laugh out loud. Got to be that big according to the book. That's a fair point. It's got to be really big. Hey, Kevin, what's up? Hello, Captain M90s. Captain Ananias says, what I wanted to ask Allan was, will the Dems lose foreign failure key again in 2028? Suppose they win in 2024 but lose the failure key in the first term. I think it's just whichever election is happening the 4 years prior is what's judged. Hello, Amber Farmer. Ian says 1800 is an amazing record. I agree. We went from like our top being like 400 to 1100, now 1800. 2000 next, that's right. Durjay says that Lichtman Live was my NBA. Oh, I forgot about the NBA Finals. Totally forgot about the NBA Finals. What's the score? Aaron says it's still not set in stone, but glad you guys did the update. I'm glad too. I'll tell you some insider baseball. My dad wanted to keep pushing it back, and I was like, no, we got to do it. Let's just get to it. So you can thank me for that. Celtics are winning 96-75. Damn, Mavs can't score, I guess, huh? Abe says, how big of a protest do you think Netanyahu's address to Congress can bring? I have no idea. Fairly big, not huge, I guess. That's what I would guess. Hello, Hamlet. William Dang says, social unrest needs to be consistent and sustained for a long period of time to turn false. Correct. Palestine protests aren't sustained. That's a fair point. They've kind of petered out. Steve Bob says, yeah, I know my screen name is weird. Sometimes people call me Steve Jobs. Laugh out loud. That's funny. Aaron says, would your mom ever be in your live, or would people think it's a clone of yourself and that you're playing around? She's welcome whenever she wants. Dudley also thinks it's unlikely that Palestine or Israeli protests will lead to social unrest. Aaron says, I'm so glad Allan is getting views. Me too. Joshua D says, how are you doing, Sam? How's your job in California going? I'm doing well. Job's going well. I'm enjoying California. Dr. Ash says, laugh out loud, Sam. Someone grieved in the chat that your dad's New York accent didn't get passed down to you. Comment, I didn't see that. Man, I apologize if you donated or you posted a question, I didn't get to it. I was like trying to keep up and keep the show running and keep up with the chat was near impossible, but somehow we got a show out of it. No, I didn't see that, but that's funny. I grew up in the DC area, so no New York accent for me. Jamie Smith says, I'm surprised your dad is counting stalemate as a foreign policy failure. They haven't lost wars yet. Again, it's leans false. I hear what you're saying. I do hear what you're saying, but I think don't overanalyze the open keys. I think they could go either way. Courtney Brubaker says, thank you. My anxiety is down. Good. I'm glad to hear that. I have 40. My mom said I have 42 people watching. I have 44 people watching. I believe that is a record. Yes. Dudley says, will social unrest go back to likely true someday or some week? I don't someday or some week. I don't understand that question exactly. I imagine. I don't understand that question. Kevin says, the best example of recent social unrest is the BLM protests in 2020. It involved widespread protests with cities on fire, lockdown, people having nothing to lose at the time also drove it. I agree. It was exacerbated by COVID for sure. Cameron Kerr says, since the 4th of July is on a Thursday, will there be a live stream that week or not because of the holiday? Cameron, I have not thought that far. I'm not going to lie to you, brother. Not thought that far. We'll see. I'm not sure. Blasty Pow Pow, I was asking chat. I just got to watch and I had no idea how to clean it. Okay. Sorry. I didn't mean to call you out for it. I just thought it was funny. Celtics winning. Boo Celtics. I agree. Boo Celtics. Andrew says, no foreign No foreign failure is not likely false. The public attention to both wars is very low. It's polling with single digits, and streets are still free from anti-war marches. Again, don't overanalyze these, slight leans. They could easily go either way still. NBC was also talking about Russia and North Korea trying to interfere in our elections come this fall. Good grief. Yeah, I think they're definitely going to do that. I think they're going to try to interfere. Even if it's as simple as bots on Twitter, Jeff Christian says, Andrew, I asked that, and apparently he says that even though we aren't directly involved, we are heavily indicated. Ukraine is stuck, but Gaza is pretty bad. Yeah, I think that's a pretty fair explanation. In addition to 1,200 on the live last week, we had over 20,000 views of that episode. Yes, we did. Queen Sarabi says people are going to march on Washington this weekend to protest. Okay. Robert Logan, Sam, Boston will win game 1 of the finals. Are you surprised or not? No, I think I picked Boston. I think if you go to my live where I was playing NBA 2K, I think I said I want the Mavs to win, but my brain is telling me Celtics are going to win. Congratulations, Karen Strickler, on your 4th place win. Yes. William Dang says, your show is better than any media news outlet during election segments. I kind of agree. Not to tune our own horn, but I hadn't watched CNN or mainstream news networks in a while, and I tuned in recently. They kind of suck, man. They're boring. They just put on 2 people who have totally polar opposite views, and they just argue. It's not even really entertaining. It's funny because I think they're trying to be super entertaining, but it's not. What are the keys to life? Good question. Patrick Murray says, I get about 90% of my news from Lichtman Live. That's awesome. Ian says, I hope whoever stole the Clinton Annotation 13 Keys book in 2000 mails it to American University. That would be cool, right? I think that, I think that book's lost. I feel like whoever, if someone has it, they might not even know they have it, or it might be in a trash bin somewhere. They didn't, or like a library. I feel like, you know what I'm saying? Obnoxious Atheist says, might want to use the chat slowing on YouTube if you haven't used it already. Oh, that's a good idea. I hadn't even thought about that. Thank you. I appreciate that. Dr. Ash says, when your dad's 13 key model lowers the population's anxiety, it has some medical application after all. That's funny. How did my dad become so smart? I think he was born that way. I think he was born I think he skipped the 6th and 7th grade. He was in college by 16 or 17 years old. I think it's just genetics. He just got good genetics. Got to do a special stream for the 4th of July. Yeah, maybe we will. Owen, damn, I missed half of the Lichtman live stream. Come on, Owen. What's my favorite clothing brand? I don't really know. I'm not really into clothes like that. Owen says, "Woo, Celtics." No, the W should be a B. Boo, Celtics. Queen Sarabi says, Sam is a basketball fan. I'm more of a football fan. Go Blue, proud Michigan fan. I'm a football fan too, as well as basketball. Bradley Mustaine says, we all know about Allan's background, but what about you, Sam? What did you study? Where did you go to school? I studied film and media and communications. I went to American University where my dad teaches, and I got a master's degree in film and media at Emerson College, which is a small school in Boston. Hello, Alex Blanco. Hamlet says, people march on Washington every day in our modern age. Not every day. But there are probably people in Washington protesting something somewhere most days. Yeah. At least once a week. Karen Strickler says, look at the keys this way. Only 4 false keys, and 2 of those are leaning. That's 2 that are leaning true, will end up true. Remember, Allan keeps saying a lot would have to go wrong for Biden to lose. Yes, good point. Miles Wolf says key. Media acts like how Biden's age is the major tipping point for the 2024 election. I agree. It's like, yeah, it's so stupid. It's like, yeah, when people are going to the polls, they're just thinking they got the age of both presidents in their hand. Yeah. They care more about the age than the governing power of a person. Yeah. It's ridiculous. Owen Valdala says Celtics in 6. I don't disagree with that. Queen Sarabi says, hey, Sam, my daughter wants to ask you if your dad has a favorite Disney movie. She really likes The Lion King, hence my username. My dad, I have no idea. I don't know. I'd have to ask him. Let me ask him. Let me see if he responds. My favorite Disney movie, I like Lion King a lot too, actually. I'm curious to see what he would say to what his favorite Disney movie is, honestly. I also really liked Mulan growing up too. Jamie Smith says, why do Republicans have to be the party of hate? Why do the Republicans? Because their voter base is homogenous. That's the best answer I could come up with. Celtics or Mavs for the chip. I think the Celtics will win, but I want the Mavs to win. Obnoxious Atheist says, major outlets can't do what the common person is doing on the internet. That's a good point. It's a very good point. Kevin says, if you need reassurance on nerves, the general public are mainly concerned with summer vacation and sports right now, not the election, since the race hasn't been set in stone. That's a very good point. Robert Logan says, Sam, it was a great live stream tonight with Professor Lichtenman. I know the final prediction won't be maybe till August, but it sounds like it's leaning towards Biden. I think the line my dad uses, I can't find the right word. It would take a lot for Biden to lose at this point. Kevin says, I'm in Georgia, which is a major battleground state, and the conversation right now is what we're planning for our summer and baseball. Yeah. And I think that's the point my dad makes a lot, is like, even this far out from election polls and policy polls and, check-in polls, they don't mean much of anything. My dad responded. He said that his favorite Disney movie is Snow White. There's your answer. Cameron Kerr, was Hurricane Katrina the biggest political scandal of all time? I'll ask your dad this again next week since it didn't get answered tonight. I'll look out for that question next week and make sure to ask him, Cameron. Thank you. I can't answer that. I don't know. Amber Farmer says, I have a general anxiety disorder, I'm guessing you're saying, and have major issues where I reflexively look up polls, which causes a panic attack. That sounds bad. Your show has become my weekly touchdown to calm me back down, so thank you. Well, don't do the thing that gives you a panic attack, and especially if it's as easy as not looking up the polls. And yeah, hopefully this 13 Keys tracker settled you down. See a therapist about that too. Patrick Murray says, I forget if this has been answered before, but do the amount of keys turned true/false correlate with the electoral college outcome? I can't answer that certainly, but I believe no. Dr. Ash said, if your dad isn't going to be doing a live stream on election day, he will probably be doing media interviews. Will you be doing a stream on here, Sam? Gosh, again, I haven't thought of July 4th, Dr. Ash. You think I've thought to election day? I'll do a stream if he's on media interviews. Yeah. If he's not, then we'll do a stream on his channel. My mom says I liked Aladdin. I liked Aladdin too. I liked a lot of Disney movies. I like Toy Story. Oh no, that's Pixar. That's not Disney. Ian says, would your dad be interested in doing a discussion with the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact campaign? I have some email addresses I can pass to you. I have no idea. Email him and ask. Obnoxious AC says, DC is protest central, but the cool part of DC is that the subway is the subway system. I wrote it on the first time in 1976 when it was new and there were few stations. That's cool. I've ridden the metro. God, I don't even know how many times being from DC. Andrew says social unrest is very unlikely. It's not the Vietnam War when Americans were dying every day. Gaza is too far, not worthy of national riots. Plus, America works as a third-party side there. I think those are all fair points. Aaron says the GOP voter base is hateful. I don't know if I entirely agree with that. William Dong says, do you buy polls having Trump making huge gains with black, young, and Hispanic voters? Not really. Not really. Maybe Hispanic voters, black and young voters, not really. Ryan on Wheel says, hey Sam, long time no see. Yeah, hey Ryan, how are you? Sorry I haven't been participating in the live chats for some time. No worries, do you? Karen Strickler says, the Republican Party turns their hate into votes and power. The three legs of their stool are racism, anti-Semitism, and sexism. Their base don't crack because... Okay, that's her take. Jackson Madison says, only key that surprised me was Biden having a major foreign policy failure regarding Ukraine/Gaza. Yeah, I hear you. Again, I wouldn't read too much into it. I think it's pretty much undecided. You know, I pushed him to not use undecided because it just felt boring. But I wouldn't read too much into it. Any additional insights on key 4? Not from me, no. Captain M90 says, one thing that might surprise... sorry, I just got an ESPN update. I thought it was about the finals. It was about Oklahoma softball. Okay. One thing that might surprise lots of Americans. President Xi of China desperately wants Trump, not Biden, elected. You think that's true? I don't know. Owen Valdala says, I would say it's more likely the no social unrest key is true compared to the third party key. Interesting. I think in the end, they'll both be true. RFK Jr. as a third-party threat seems very unlikely. I agree, considering he lost consistent support for the last 6 months from 20 to 10%, and all the dirts on him are coming up. Yeah, I've never thought RFK Jr. was a real threat. You know, he was polling well, so we had to take him sort of seriously, but I agree. I've never seen him as a threat. Xi fears facing off Biden and his Democratic Western alliance rather than dealing with an isolationist / America First Trump. Yeah, but Trump is also more irrational and more likely to go into a conflict with China, in my opinion. But that's pure speculation. Queen Sarabi says, consider that RFK has only made 8 ballots too. Good point. Ryan Wheel says, I'm still convinced Trump will win because of RFK. I don't see RFK as being a factor in this election. Obnoxious Atheist says, it's the media polling complex. It's a major industry keeping people employed, so it won't be going anywhere in my lifetime. That's a good point. Yeah, I totally agree with that. Patrick Murray says, when you make your prediction stream or the stream before the election day, can you guys make an electoral college prediction map? Yes, that's a good idea. Keep reminding me of that though. But yes, I think we'll try to do that. At least I'll ask him. I don't know what, if he'll want to, but I'll ask him. Did I see the poll of Republicans where about 75% before the verdict responded that a felon should not be president, but after only 25% said that? Is everybody a hypocrite now? Yeah, pretty much. It's sad to say, but it seems like almost everybody's a hypocrite now. And, this is supposed to be the power of law. I mean, the party of law and order, right? What about the law and order of your buddy Trump? Right. You better do a stream on election day, even if it's just you, Sam. I will, okay? I promise you, Bradley. A convicted felon should not be president. I think that's true. I was trying to think, like, is there any scenario where that might not be true? But I couldn't think of anything in the split second that I had to answer that question. The chat was going 1,000 miles per hour tonight. I was discouraged to ask a question. While you guys approach 10K subs, which then will reach an exponential growth, maybe it's time to talk to your dad about a new cam. Yeah. See, okay, I want to get my dad all the good equipment, but you have to understand this guy is totally inept when it comes to technology. So I'm just worried that like right now he just knows how to like open his computer, click the link and go. And that works. I'm just worried that like if I start sending him cameras and mics, we're going to start running into big technical issues that because he doesn't know how to deal with them. That's the only reason why I haven't done that yet. I don't know if I've said that before. But yeah, I don't want him to have a crappy, camera. But I'm just worried that the tech, like I know some of them are literally as simple as plugging in. That's how bad he is with technology that I'm still worried. Captain M90 says the CCP propaganda machine has been shouting political persecution against Trump after the guilty verdict. Is that true? I didn't know that. Have I been to all 50 states? No, I have not. I haven't counted, but I definitely haven't been to all 50. Is it possible to make the chat donations members only? That is a possibility. I don't think we're quite big enough for that yet, but that is also a possible solution. Queen Sarabi says, I'm not a gamer, but my daughter says this election is like Skyrim. Trump is Ulfric Stormcloak, who says America belongs to the Christian nationalists and Biden is the empire. I love Skyrim, but I haven't played it in a long time, so I can't comment on those specific characters. I think you should have allowed him to leave some of them undecided because those 9 true keys give people a false impression of Allan's prediction being final. Yeah, but they're lighter colored. You don't think people can tell that like some of them are lighter, so they're like not final, in my opinion. Do you have your own predictions on the down ballot races for 2024, like House and Senate? Nah, not really. Not really. What would it take to get your mom to appear on the show? I'm sure it would be an awesome show. Ask her. She's in the chat. I think she's answered that before, though. She basically says, the dynamic is good between me and my dad. She just wants to let it keep flowing that way. We are only 7 weeks away from August. Biden's defeat is becoming very, very unlikely every day. I agree. I agree with that. This Cameron Kerr says, this may not be a popular opinion on here, but Biden running again is elder abuse. He looked totally lost at the D-Day ceremony today. That's funny. Elder abuse. So you're saying that he's so out of his mind he can't even consent to running for president? I don't buy that. Starry says, I actually think RFK will end up with 10%. Really? I don't think so. Sam, do you get anxiety about the keys each election? No, not really. I trust them. One thing about the third party key is that RFK may be pulling from the opposition party. So from Trump, that is unusual and could change how the key turns. That's what Karen Strickler says. RFK is overrated. Media overinflate his appeal to voters. I agree. RFK sleeps with worms in his brains. R.I.P. Chill out, William. RFK doesn't represent an obvious split within the Republican Party, but it sure does seem like he would appeal far more to Trump-like-minded voters than Biden. He's anti-vaccine for Pete's sake. I agree with that statement. The last real third-party threat I remember was Ross Perot. He might have flipped the 92 election towards Clinton. I think he did. I think he very much did. Why would the polls be so bad this cycle? Not saying I take them at face value, but what weighting science do they use? Why would the polls be so bad? Because they're becoming they're becoming worse and worse over time because less people use phone. In 1968, you could call up people, and that's the primary way you talk to people. You call up people now. Young people don't even have landlines. It's just the polls are becoming worse and worse. Jamie Smith says RFK is going to fizzle and crash in the polls at the later stage in the race. I agree. Just like Gary Johnson crashed at the last minute in 2016. I agree. Sam, Boston won game 1 tonight, 107-89, but the series is it's only game 1. I know it's not over, but that's that's a solid victory for the Celtics. Sam, who do you think will win the election? I think Joe Biden will win the election. That's just my own gut feeling, not based on the keys. Andrew says short-term economy is definitely true. Here's the thing. People usually feel recession way before the government, but Biden's approval on the economy is still about 40%, hasn't declined. I think we had it as definitely true. Yeah, we had it as definitely true. There's just a lot of Biden haters out there who will scream that, the economy sucks and we're all crazy, but I would just ignore them. Biden is running because of the 13 keys. Maybe. It's possible. Ryan Wheel says, Sam, I'll be honest, keys 10 and 11 bug me a lot. I thought Biden was a great foreign policy guy. Apparently he isn't. Keys 10 and 11 bug you a lot. I mean, he had them as leans false. So if you think I don't know what you mean by they bug you, but yeah. In many sense, Xi of China is just like Trump. Interesting. I don't know much about Xi. Amber Farmer says, I personally think that RFK fails to make the debates. His pollings will collapse even more than it already is. I agree with that too. Blasty Pow Pow says, if people are trying to poll me, they won't get through. I don't answer in no numbers. Exactly. Polls, why will the polls be so bad this time? Because they're just getting worse and worse and they're becoming less reliable over time. Rian Korma say RFK will make none of the debates because at least last time I checked, Biden and Trump agreed to debate sponsored directly by major news outlets, the Commission for Presidential Debates. Yeah, I don't think he will make a debate either. Aaron says, am I the only one who thinks it's an asset we have an elderly president rather than a young, inexperienced doof? I agree. I agree that I think there's a lot of ageism in America, especially these days. And I do agree with thinking as, wisdom and not elderliness, but, lots of experience as a good thing. I think maybe Biden's just a little too old though, Blasty Pow Pow says, I wish people would understand that it's corporate price gouging and not inflation. That's a fair point. Aaron says, also, isn't it child abuse for the Republican Party to run a 5-year-old loudmouth child? That's a funny joke. You're calling Trump a loudmouth child. I get it. Xi inherited most of his power from his dad, who is one of the big shots of Chinese politics. I didn't know that. Xi is similar in Trump in ways. Trump wants to be president for life, tarnishes the media, threatens political opponents with jail, etc. Ryan says, to clarify on keys 10 and 11, Sam, the problem is that I've read and thought that foreign policy was one of Biden's strengths as a senator and VP. Yeah, you can be super strong on foreign policy and how is he supposed to control Israel bombing Gaza and Russia invading Ukraine? You know what I mean? He could be the best foreign policy mind of all time. You can't control that. He's been too timid on Ukraine. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think he's just gotten the right wing of right wingers have really fought him on it and really fought that whole notion of supporting Ukraine. Dr. Ash says your dad's rival, Helmut Northpath's prediction model failed for the first time in 2020, which rendered your father's 13 keys model more prestigious in the last 4 years. Interesting. I don't know who Helmut is. Biden is not bad at foreign policy, but he does not and cannot control Putin or Netanyahu. That was my point, yeah. Andrew says, why am I bullish on foreign failure key? I don't see a recognition of it. It must be a big anti-war protest. Iraq caused 20 millions, or a surge of Gaza and Ukraine. The polls, neither thing is happening. I don't disagree with you, Andrew. I don't disagree with you. Just be patient. Do I think the Dems get control of Congress this cycle? I don't know. I haven't been following at all. Robert Logan says, Sam, I'm a big Caitlin Clark fan. Another player knocked her down, and she seems to be picked on because she's so popular. I think Caitlin is great. And that whole Caitlin Clark thing has turned really out of control, in my opinion. It was a dirty play by Kennedy, I think was the player's name. It was a dirty play. That's all I really got to say about it. Blasty Pow Pow says, I'd like to see an older millennial my age run and do well, or a young Gen Xer. I agree. Age doesn't really matter. It's just about the candidate, in my opinion. I think you can be young or old or be a good candidate or somewhere in the middle. It doesn't matter. I don't think age is a big factor. Ian says, I watched ABC News on the day Trump was found guilty, and they still talked about the polls being neck and neck. I know better after watching your dad. Political industrial complex seems real. Yeah, that's just how they make their money. They're gonna just keep going using the same methods that make them their money. Owen Waddell says, this may make no sense. Great. That's a great start to a question. But it really bothers me that pollsters often don't realize there are squared values. By omitting those values, they purposely exclude a stat that explains the variance of polls. Well, they properly exclude it because if they were upfront about it, you'd be like, well, so this poll's kind of pointless. And then they'd be like, well, yeah. And then you'd be like, okay, I don't care. And then they'd be out of a job. Amber Farmer says, Helmut tries to predict the presidential winner based on results from the primary. Interesting. Sounds like a bad model. If Biden understands the 13 keys, he'll ignore the foreign policy key since he can still get 8 true keys without it and save those keys for 2028 for the next Democratic candidate to help them win. I don't think he's thinking that closely about it. Andrew says, I expect Biden to win 9 or 10 keys at the end. Yeah, I mean, I think we had him at 9 here. Yeah. We have him at 9 here. If, the the leans trues turn true, that would be 9. And then, yeah, he could win either success or failure. I agree with you, Andrew. Am I confident, like your father, that Sherrod Brown and John Tester will win re-election? I got no idea. I haven't followed that at all. Queen Sarabi says, pollsters can say whatever they want. They can fudge the numbers, even if they only poll like 10 people. Karen Strickland says, Constitution says you must be 35 to run for president. Yes, I know that, mother. I'm saying age doesn't matter between age 35 and 70. It just matters about the candidate. Why did you drop your disco name? It felt too random. That's why. Sammy looked at least as close to my real name. You like disco better, Ian? Andrew says, we are once again experiencing power shortages because Russia damaged our power plants. GOP is also to blame. They were blocking an aid for 6 months. This is why Biden win is so important. Good point. Sorry to hear that, Andrew. So Sam can run for president in 2028, right? Yes, I can. Yes, I can. So, get ready for my presidential run. Patrick Murray says, I got DeSantis winning in 2028. Man, you're already making predictions for 2028? That's wild. That's crazy. Obnoxious Atheist says, this is how much things have changed. In the 80s, Barry Goldwater was saying homosexuality was not a conservative issue. They lost once they made it an issue, so they now go after transgender people. Very good point. I agree with that totally. So if a protest occurs at the DNC convention, it may not flip the eighth key because that would only one city and not widespread. Correct? Correct. DeSantis, I think, missed his chance, Amber Farmer says. I kind of agree with that, actually. I kind of think DeSantis dudded out. If the Israel situation becomes somehow a win for Biden, then he gets 3 keys immediately. 2 foreign plus social unrest. Potentially, yeah. Doesn't necessarily if Ukraine could still be considered a failure, so he wouldn't win that one necessarily, right? Just saying. Courtney Brubaker says, age is a factor if we want someone at their best, both probably past their prime. Given the choices, I'm voting for Biden. I don't know. I disagree. I mean, again, I think maybe there's a too young and too old threshold, but I think, 35 to 70, it's really about the candidate. Licht means light in German. Thank you, Mother. Ian says, I made a good change. Thank you, Ian. I appreciate that. Linda G says, on a sport note, are you rooting for the Celtics or Mavs in the NBA Finals? After tonight, it might be a sweep for Boston. I'm rooting for the Mavs. I think the Celtics for a win. I don't think it will be a sweep. Sam for president. Nah. You won't see me running for public office. Ryan O'Wheel says, Amber Farmer, Allan said a while ago that DeSantis was a terrible candidate. Yeah, I agree. Ryan O'Wheel says, I vote for Sam for president. Make America cool again. Thanks, bro. I appreciate that. Do you live in a Democratic district? Yes. I live in Los Angeles. Is there any non-Democratic district in Los Angeles? Ian, no Sam for president. No Sam for president. Andrew says, Sam, let's clarify. All leaning false keys are not necessarily going to turn false. It's just the general review, right? Correct. Did the large uncommitted vote in Michigan count as a primary contest? I don't believe so. Do you think Republicans this year are running overconfident like Democrats were in 2016? Yeah, actually, I think that's a fairly good point. I also think they're trying to, they're overcompensating. I think they are a little worried about Trump, and so they're trying to pretend like he's so in there like swimwear, but he's not. Near LA, there's some Republican districts. Yeah, near LA, but not LA proper. There's a GOP district in West New York City. Is there really? Where? Sam for NBA draft? What does that mean? You think I'm going to go in the NBA draft? No shot. I'm 6'2", but I play like a center. No shot. RFK is steadily declining in Fox News monthly polls. He's down from 15 to 11%, minus 1% every month. Good points. Jeff Cruson says, in 2012, Obama faced a greater uncommitted vote opposition than Biden now. Not to disparage the concerns over Gaza, but that's not the big movement everyone thinks it is. Fair points, Jeff. Republicans forget we're living in a post-Dobbs world, says Jamie Smith. Blasty Pow says, I'm so ticked off Menendez is running independent. Like, how big of an ego do you have to risk losing our seat? He's corrupt. I can't stand him. Andy Kim would be way better. I agree. He's a politician. That's the issue. Queen Sarabi says, I firmly believe that women are going to vote for Biden in droves this November given the attacks on abortion and birth control. I agree with that. Staten Island is Republican. Staten Island leans towards the GOP. Yeah, but they said West New York. Were they talking about Staten Island? Staten Island West? No, it doesn't matter. The betting odds show Trump as a clear favorite. Weird. Because they're just going off the polls. That's the only reason why. Do I think Nate Silver will lose more hairs on election night like 2016? I don't know. I think at this point, 2016 was such a blunder for him. He probably doesn't care that. Like, he's already had the big blunder. I don't think he's as worried as he was. Do you think Trump telling Haley voters he doesn't need their vote is a terrible move for his campaign? Yeah, probably. You need every vote, Trump. Every vote you can get. Staten Island is part of New York. No, I know that. Staten Island is in the southwest corner of New York City. Okay, fair. I was thinking of West New York, like West Manhattan, but that was stupid, obviously. I know Staten Island is part of New York City. Those Republicans remind me of a story about the Emperor's New Clothes. Which Republicans? Kevin says, if SCOTUS rules for Idaho and against emergency abortions, that will drive even more women out to vote. Any ruling from SCOTUS about abortion, yes, I agree. Will galvanize more women. DNC will be 1976 all over again, just my gut feeling. No shot, Cameron. Pull this clip and when it happens, pull it back. No shot. Will there be protests? Yes. Will it get news and will it be, a hot button issue? Sure. Will it be 1968 again? No. Andrew says, forget the odds. They had Fetterman at 15% in November 2022, Oz at 85%. Is that true? Trump versus Biden reminds me of the Hobbs versus Lake race. Why? How so? Not a single anti-abortion initiative ever went well for Republicans since Roe was overturned. Good point. Very good point. For the Arizona governor's race, polls had Kari Lake overwhelmingly leading. Oh, that's why it reminds you of it. I see. There were protests of 80,000 people against the RNC in 2004. It didn't turn the key, and there was a war we were actually fighting. Very, very good points, Amber. Very, very good points. Florida's voting on abortion, but they need 60% to pass. Not clear they have enough support. Interesting, I didn't know that. Lake leading in polls and predictions, whereas Hobbs ducked for most of the campaign and won in an upset. Okay, I see the comparisons. Okay, I see it. I definitely understand where you're coming from, folks. I absolutely get it. Biden is gonna be the 21st century Truman. I don't know jack about Harry Truman, to be honest with you. Queen Sarabi says, I'm a lurker of Simon Rosenberg's Substack Hopium Chronicles, so I'm going to plug it here for those who want to learn some value. Who is Simon Rosenberg? don't know who that is. Andrew says, hey people, relax. Just relax. The commentator above is right. If Iraq war didn't turn social unrest against Bush, with 20 million protesting in Gaza, indeed won't do that to Biden. I agree with you, Andrew. Ryan says, Sam, did you address my question about SCOTUS balance? I got distracted, so I wasn't listening. SCOTUS balance? Ask it again. I'm not sure. I don't know what you mean by SCOTUS balance. Sorry, I'm hungry. I'm ordering dinner. 1 second. Simon Rosenberg has resources for how all of you can help Biden win. Interesting. Cameron Kerr says, Biden is too old and Trump is too crazy. What are independents like me supposed to do? That's a good question. There's not a lot of room for independents in America. There's no doubt about that. William Dank says, I find Republican people delusional when they preach how Trump's conviction will only expand Trump's popularity among voters and POC voters. I totally agree. When I hear Republicans being like, this is only going to help Trump, I'm like, keep coping. Keep telling yourself that at night. Yeah, does that help you sleep? Because it's not going to help him. Nobody liked Truman while he was president. Very unpopular guy, but time has been much kinder to him. I agree. Okay, I see what you're saying in terms of comparison to Biden. And Rion says the same. Harry Truman presided over a period of high inflation in the aftermath of World War II. Most Americans were unhappy with the economy. A major newspaper prediction on election that he had lost. Interesting. Will the Dems ever be able to have more than 3 justices? It's possible, right? I don't know. Rosenberg was also one of the few pundits and strategists who correctly predicted that Dems would in 2022 overall. The Dems would what? Despite almost every other Dem freaking out and about it back then, that they would win. Why would anyone want to vote for a felon and a narcissist at that? You don't give narcissists power ever. Because he represents policies that they want to see in this country. It's that simple. Jamie Smith says, it's factually true that Senator Mitch McConnell and Harry Reid won re-election with lower approval ratings than Biden. Yeah, but that's because those are national approval ratings and they only have to run in their state. That's why. Or you're talking about lower approval ratings in their state. I didn't know about that. My mom says, Trump's conviction will not help him. In fact, convictions will likely crack his base for the first time, and those convictions certainly do not appeal to swing voters. I agree with the swing voters point. I still don't think it'll crack his base, but I do agree. Swing voters are probably going to, if he even loses a little bit of them, he's fucked. Truman was also famously photographed holding a newspaper that said, Dewey defeats Truman, much like Biden holding up Eric Trump's tweet that they had won the Pennsylvania in 2020. That's funny. What dumbasses the Trumps were like, oh, we won. It's like, no, you didn't. Jamie Smith says, I'm pretty sure those approval ratings for senators are referring to their state. Oh, I always thought that. Maybe so. Maybe I'm tripping. Andrew says, I completely exclude the possibility of Ukraine turning the foreign failure key. Russia is slowed way down and advances with the speed of one village per month or something. This is due to this. Okay, I mean, I see what you're saying. Harry Reid has his own political machine in 2010 which defy the predictions of his laws. Yeah. And remember, like, the more local you get, the more things like money and influence and stuff like that can play a factor. McConnell is by some metrics the most unpopular senator amongst his own state's electorate. Okay, I was wrong. William Dang says, I think a lot of people underestimate Democrats in Nevada. I think Biden still wins in 2024 around the same margin. Yeah, maybe, I don't know. I'm a little nervous about Nevada. I'm not going to lie. But William's confident, so take William's word for it, not mine. Brian Tyler Cohen says that elections are based in margins. So even if Trump loses 5 or 10%, he's toast. Oh yeah, if he loses 5 or 10%, he's absolutely done for. If he loses, I mean, what are we talking about? I mean, you know, if he loses 2% in Michigan, he's done. It's over. In 2022, Dems were underestimated. Right. That is true. If McConnell is so unpopular, how did he keep his seat? Money and influence. That's how, in my opinion. Why would you continue to vote for someone if you think they're doing a poor job? Well, I don't understand that context. Oh, I don't know, because I guess they just feel that someone else wouldn't necessarily do a better job. I think you're talking about McConnell, because you go to the polls and the only person you know on the ballot is McConnell, so you just kind of vote for the evil you know is better than the evil you don't, right, type of thing. Queen Sarabi says, I do see this election looking very similar to 2020, but with Biden possibly winning North Carolina instead of Georgia. I don't know. What are you basing that off of? Nevada should have been a bigger priority for Dems. It should have been the first state to vote, and it should have been the host of the convention. That's a fair point, Jamie. Polling gets a lot of people addicted. They need to take a break. I agree. Kentucky is a red state. McConnell can't lose. Right, that's another point, is that, in a primary voting, he has, just a solid base of, establishment people that'll vote for him. Nobody can crack him in a primary, and then no, blue candidate can beat him in Kentucky. Although they do have a Democratic governor, but governorships are a little different. Will Struchmiker says, thought this was your best stream. My last name is pronounced Struchtemeyer. Thank you. Struchtemeyer. McConnell keeps his seat because he runs in a very conservative state that hates the Democrats he runs against. Fair point. The fall of Saigon scenario in Ukraine is currently technically impossible this year and most likely overall. So forget about Ukraine damaging Biden this election. Okay. Blasty Pow Pow says, I'm tired of being the last to vote in the primary here in New Jersey. By the time I get to vote, it's already been decided. I know, that is kind of annoying. I've felt that a couple times in Maryland too, where it's like, it's kind of over, Sometimes the candidates I wanted to vote for aren't even on the ballot anymore. Do I agree with the following statements? Split voting on down ballot races are pretty much dead in presidential elections. I don't know. I don't know enough about down ballot voting and how it's affecting presidential elections, to be honest. Queen Sarabi says, I explained the Israel and Palestine conflict to my daughter, and she said, Mom, there's no heroes there. That's very wise for a young woman. Very wise indeed. Andy Bashir has been able to win his seat twice despite being a Democrat because he and his family have very strong name recognition, and I think he has unusually high appeal as a politician. That's in Kentucky, and that's what Ross Goldberg said. G. Goss says, do you think when Biden wins the trials against him will move forward and he'll finally go to prison? I guess you mean Trump. Yeah, I think it's possible. I think it's possible. William Dang says, I don't get the freak out over Larry Hogan maybe flipping Maryland Senate seat. Have you seen my dad talk about it? Go watch my dad talk about it. Basically, he says it's just another red seat, and a red Republican will keep voting for Republican stuff, and that'll change the whole Senate. I think that's his whole point. I think it's possible that Trump could go to prison because of his behavior. What do you mean by that? Durjay says, split ticket is very much alive in presidential elections. For example, in 2020, Vermont overwhelmingly voted Democrat for president and Republican Scott for governor. That's what Durjay says. Oh, William's saying, don't freak out that Larry Hogan's going to win. Like, don't worry, he's not going to win. Is that what you meant? William Dang says, I feel if Trump continues to piss off Judge Merchan, he could end up imprisoned. Yeah, it's possible. Prison for Trump will likely just be home confinement, which seems like a slap on the wrist for the severity of his crimes. I still think it's possible he could go to prison. But yeah, I also think home confinement is fairly likely. Blasty Pow Pow says, I wish Merchan would just throw him in prison. Cohen served a year for being a part of it. Weisselberg got 5 months and then 5 months again for lying. Karen Strickler says, the Hogan freak is because he could actually win, creating an R majority, and most importantly, adding an R majority on SCOTUS. Queen Sarabi says, Larry Hogan agreeing with the Trump verdict has put him on bad terms with the MAGA crowd. Someone even commented, your campaign is over to him. I don't think his statements on the Trump verdict will affect his election. Tim says, Michael Cohen said he thought it would be a bad idea to jail Trump because of national security concerns, more likely house arrest where they could monitor him. Yeah. I know people get mad at me for this. I don't think they should I think he should be convicted of whatever, and then Biden should pardon him, if possible, in whichever trials he can pardon him. Now everybody's going to yell at me. 3, 2, 1. See, Ross Goldberg said, no. Benjamin, no pardon. Karen Strickland, no pardon. Are you kidding? Why do you think Biden should pardon him? I just think that it'll just be better for the country if Biden pardons him. I think it'll be just be more polarization. We've already proved, the trials are over. We've already proven he's guilty. We all know he's a criminal. Throwing him in jail is just a bad optics for our country, in my opinion. And I know people will argue the opposite. It would be bad optics for him to get away with stuff and not go to jail. He's still convicted, though. He's still a criminal. Thoughts on Dean Phillips asking Kathy Hochul, the New York governor, to pardon Trump for the sake of the country? I think I just answered that. Of course, it's just my opinion. It's up to Biden. Of course. What do you mean? Gee, God. I mean, I'm not saying I have a say in this. Jamie Smith says Larry Hogan will lose because Senate races are more partisan than governor races. Yeah, true. Montana Dem Governor Steve Bullock couldn't win a Senate seat in his red state. Fair point. Once Trump is finally held accountable, it needs to stick. I mean, a felony sticks. When Ford pardoned Nixon, he said it was better for the country. That's kind of where I'm leaning. Andrew said, people talk about Gaza like it is badly damaging for Biden. I have an alternative opinion. Without Gaza war, Mike Johnson would likely delay Ukraine aid, but Iran's strike on Israel made a breakthrough. That's a fair point. So essentially, Israel allowed Biden to help Ukraine, basically. I see what you're saying. People remember how Ford pardoning Nixon made him no favor for his 1976 election. It's not about helping Biden or helping Ford or helping the Democrats. It's just about, just think it's bad optics to have a former president in prison. Maybe just send him to exile. I'd be open to that. I'd honestly be open to that. Blasty Pow Pow says, I'm glad I don't make those kind of decisions. There's a lot at stake when it comes to polarization. Me too, kind of. I'm kind of glad about that too. Pardoning Trump is a bad idea. Look, I'm open to everybody's opinion. Jeff Crusan says, I think a better solution would be for Biden to work on jail reform to keep his son's sobriety intact. Some advisors have said that they're worried Biden being worried about his son could make him unstable. Okay. I don't quite understand what you're saying. I don't get the jail reform and his son's and him worrying about the son. I don't get how those are connected. I don't think Biden can pardon him if it's a state case. That's correct. Benjamin Nessa says, lame response. He should be held accountable and is a notorious criminal and has committed so many crimes. I'm open to your criticism, Benjamin. Oh no, Tactics is in the chat. Never understand what this guy is saying. Is there anything a president would do to get sent to prison? That's a good question. Murder, rape, something like that. Dems need 51 Senate seats to repeal or modify the filibuster rules. I've read some sources saying that they only need 50 plus Harris, but I don't think it's going to be enough. I don't know anything about that. Much love to you too, Benjamin. Andrew says, you are absolutely right. Israel is the top issue for Republicans, even for MAGA. Without this war in the Middle East, they wouldn't care much about foreign policy at all, especially about Ukraine. Interesting. Does your dad have an opinion about the 2004 Ohio presidential election controversy? No idea. You have to ask him. Rape, you say? By that logic, Trump should go to prison. Well, he should if he's convicted of rape, but I think they're all past the statute of limitations. Right. The Eugene Carroll was a civil case. Trump's already broken all 10 commandments, including murder and rape. Murder? Today, D-Day in France, Biden pooped himself. Look and show us. I don't really care about that. Tim says, I think your point about convicting Trump but pardoning him to keep him out of prison might help heal the country from the paranoia on both sides. That's what I'm saying, Tim. Thank you. Tactics, you really think Biden pooped himself? Come on, bro. Any concerns that putting a former president in jail could cause mass civil unrest? Probably not. I don't think enough people give a shit about Trump, Cameron. I'm going to be honest with you. Tactics, you're sub because remember I was playing 2K and you subbed. William Dang says, Biden is one of the most underestimated presidents in American history. Interesting take. Andrew says, so Israel and Iran basically rescued Biden from a failure in Ukraine. That sounds weird, but seems like a truth. That's an interesting point. Did you watch day one? I did start watching day one. I like it. I am on episode like 3 or 4. I like it. Thank you for the suggestion, Benjamin. You said I better have watched it by the time we come back, and I did. Jeff Brown says 1948 equals 2024. I'm not smart enough to know. G Goss says, I think your dad is a great guy. See, he loves tradition and intelligent. I agree. If someday there's a Trump biopic, would you watch it in theaters? I don't know. If it's got good reviews, maybe. Jamie Smith says, they say Biden's so old and frail, but he was actually seen riding a bike this week, and he didn't fall off the bike this time. Fair point. "1948 was the one where Truman won re-election. Even the polls thought Dewey would beat him." Right. Sorry, I forgot. Andrew says, Biden is trying to govern well, unlike Trump in 2020. This is why Biden will win. William Dang says, I love you guys because you're able to put your own biases aside and make consistent assessments and predictions. Thank you, William. I appreciate that. That's what we strive for. Did I watch season 8 of Fargo? No, not yet. I don't think I have Hulu, which is it's an FX show, right? I might actually now. I have to double check. Did I watch House of Cards? Yes. You mean the show that came out in like 2012? Yeah. My food has arrived. Oh, there you go, Jamie Smith. Benjamin Manessa says, so what now? What do you mean? So what now what? What I order? I ordered some Thai food. I like Thai food. All right. I think since my food is here, I've been streaming for like almost 3 hours now between my dad's show and this show. I think I'm going to sign off unless anybody has some burning questions that they'd like to pose. His burning question is, did I order Pad See Lou? I ordered Drunken Noodle. Thank you, Rian. Thank you, Queen Sarabi. Root beer or Mountain Dew? I don't really like either of those. If I had to choose, I don't know. Root beer? When am I going to do another video game live stream? Maybe this weekend, if not Monday. Sam, if you could use some help with anything small for your dad's channel, I'd love to be involved if there's anything you need. All right, at Sammy Licked on Instagram. Send me a message there, Jeff. Yes, I will be playing Zelda again, Dr. Ash. Take care, Ryan. What soda do I like? I'm a Sprite guy. Thank you, Blasty Pow Pow. Good night. Ross Bogelberg says, root beer hands down. Root beer is king. Everybody likes root beer. Ryan likes Diet Coke. My mom doesn't like soda. My dog is growling. Get 50 before food. 50 what? All right, thank you, Ross. Thank you, Queen Sarabi, Benjamin. Good night.